What's up, guys? Welcome into the first ever Wolverine Live Michigan Recruiting Podcast. So you guys know I do my Wednesday recruiting chats. Always love interacting with you guys, getting questions in. But this is going to be a regular occurrence here on the YouTube show. We're doing a more standard podcast with actual topics, structure, and we're only going to be answering super chat questions. And you guys know who I am. I'm EJ Holland. My co-pilot here is Zach Libby, new to the Wolverine. We wanted to get him on the show, and he's going to be my co-host forever until we stop doing this podcast. So what's up, Zach? How are you liking the Wolverine so far, man?
Man, it's been a fun 3 weeks. Learning under you, Clayton, Chris, Anthony has just been amazing. And, can't say enough about being on this website and publications. So looking forward to these podcasts weekly.
Awesome. So, yeah, we're definitely glad to have Zach over at the Wolverine. He's definitely bolstered our recruiting coverage. We poached him actually from Rivals, and he still has that social media handle, which I know some people have asked about. Elon will not let him change that handle, but he will be getting a new handle, and then we'll promote that. For now, we'll promote the Wolverine. You can sign up now, just $10 until next football season. Insider recruiting information, team information as we head into the college football playoff, basketball recruiting. Yeah, our producer with a nice message there. But all for just $10 at thewolverine.com right now. Sign up today. I believe that gets you through August of 2023. Yep, $10. Also, like this channel, like the video, definitely helps with the algorithm. And we're only answering super chat questions today, guys. Tuesdays will only be super chat questions, so we can keep the flow of the show. So if you want to put in a super chat, just click that donate button, and that money goes towards our our travel budget. Man, you're already getting some heat. They're egging the new guy. They're calling you a woman, Zach. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know very many bearded women other than those that appear in the circus. I mean, maybe Zach is that in hiding. But our first topic of the show is going to be Jadyn Davis. Everybody wants to know, when's Jadyn Davis deciding? I've had panicky mentions on the social media. For those of you that don't know, again, Jadyn Davis, top 100 quarterback out of Charlotte, Providence today, Michigan's top overall target for next cycle, and really the only quarterback on the board. So just to give you guys a little bit of clarity on decision timeline, Jadyn has always been very clear on decision timeline. He's always said after the season, before the end of the calendar year. The season's over. Jadyn Davis's season wrapped up on November 18th, I believe, with a state title. Obviously, November is over. We have moved into December, but it's still not the end of the year. So not any reason to panic right now. I mean, we still have, 25 days to go before the end of the calendar year. So Davis could really decide at any time. There's no set commitment date for him yet. But last I heard, that's still the plan. I'm not too nervous. Zach, are you nervous at all that Jadyn Davis has not pulled the trigger or at least even set a commitment date?
No, because I think he's been off and on about when he wants to commit since August. Like, I have talked to him personally when I went down there to Charlotte, and he really didn't know what then. I think it's just getting it done and out of the way. Obviously, quarterback is a very different position. Having a quarterback early is perfect for a team in order to have a headliner and really for other commits to know who's going to be your gunslinger for the next 4 years. I think also schools that were also on his top list have grabbed quarterbacks. So I know his list is narrowing down without his control. And I think he just wants to get it over with. I know he's not a media darling, I guess. He's not a very you don't hear from him much. So I think he just wants this done. I think he's tired of the process. I think he wants to know who his teammates are. I think he wants to build bonds with his teammates. And I think he just wants to know, he wants to head into his official visits at least, or into the next fall, knowing that he knows where he's going to play. Going back to Michigan, I don't think him waiting should be of importance, even if he prolongs this. I have said in the past on the other website that, you could see a decision come in spring or maybe in the summer, because that was when he really didn't know. Um, I think we'll only know when he actually makes that date known. And being that he's not really on social media, we will all know when he does that. So as long as he is still in communication with Weiss, with Harbaugh, with Moore, with really the entire Michigan staff, I think Michigan fans should not be concerned of when he actually does it. Because as everyone that covers Michigan recruiting knows, Michigan has had the momentum for months, and I think it still does heading into Christmas. So I'm not worried. As long as he does it, he does it.
Definitely. So I want to address something you said, Zach, is that he's been fluid with his decision timeline, and that is correct. Early in the process, and even heading into the season, Jadyn didn't really have a set timeline. He was kind of all over the place on when he wanted to shut it down. It's only been more recently that he's stated that he wants to get it done before the end of the calendar year. Now, I saw Jadyn during his playoff run, and he made it clear that that was the timeline after the season, before the end of the calendar year. Now, could he take it beyond the calendar year? Maybe. Zach, I think you kind of made a point that you still wouldn't be that concerned if he does take it into the spring. I would be a little concerned, only because Michigan's not building a ton of relationships with other quarterbacks. You have NIL, that is a complete wild card. You have the potential for other schools to get involved. The longer it goes, the more chance you have of some bigger schools, or some more NIL friendly schools, should I say, getting involved. Because you have had bigger schools, like you mentioned, Zach, take other quarterbacks. You had Alabama take Julian Say, and LSU got their guy, Georgia got their guy, etc. So it's kind of like a domino effect there with the quarterback takes. And so I think with Clemson maybe missing out on DJ Lagway, they could become a bigger player. It's closer to home. That could be something to watch. Lagway, I think, is making his decision tomorrow. Lagway being a fellow elite quarterback. So Clemson could be a school. Who knows if you have a Miami or an Oregon or Texas A&M or a school like that is very NIL friendly, decide, hey, we want to make a big push. Now, not saying that Jadyn's the type of guy that would just take NIL and that's his only factor. I just think that you never know in recruiting, right? The longer it goes, the more these guys get into the recruiting process, the more NIL could become a factor. Jadyn has always stated that relationships matter to him, and I have no reason to believe him. I mean, he's a very football oriented guy. Jim Harbaugh likes football guys. That is Jadyn. I've seen him throwing up on the sidelines, come back and lead his team to win. To a victory. And I've seen him, take some tough hits, bounce back up. He's been a great leader for his new team, Charlotte Providence Day. Like I said, led him to a state title. He's always made it clear that Jim Harbaugh, having played in the NFL, having played the quarterback position at Michigan as well, has been appealing to him. Matt Weiss's NFL experience, the pro style offense, all of that stuff just aligns for Michigan. But I do think the sooner the better. If it does go into spring, Zach, like you said, you're not too worried, but do you think Michigan should go other quarterback, make some offers, or at least get some guys in on visits?
I think they're slowly doing that anyway, because obviously with 2023, they were all in on Dante Moore, and look what happened. Other options, obviously, they're still in with Michael Van Buren out of Baltimore St. Francis, who has Michigan in his top list. I don't know how effective that would be, knowing that Biff Poggi has left for Charlotte. And as we know, Biff Poggi has a ton of recruiting prowess in the DMV and was on staff for a couple of years. So I don't know how that will shape out, but you got other guys like Michael Hawkins out of Allen, Texas, who had Michigan in his top 8 yesterday. You have Zach Wilson's little brother, Isaac Wilson, who visited for the Penn State game, even though Michigan didn't offer, they're still in contact with the 2024 quarterback. And then if you want to go deeper into that, you have Isaiah Marshall, who, obviously has a offer that was back in middle school. And, he had a great year last year with Southfield in state. So If he can prove on his mechanics in the offseason, maybe they circle back to him. But really, the only contenders that I really think that can actually make noise is Clemson, Penn State, and Tennessee as well, because they hosted Jadyn for unofficials this fall. But Clemson's going to be a really big one to look out for, especially now that DJ Uliungle transferred, and they need that quarterback behind Kate Klubnik for the future. Clemson's obviously close by. They have the pedigree. They have the quarterback pedigree. So that's one to look out for. But I think the longer he waits, I think it's just him making sure he has the right decision and making sure that all of his bases are checked. And if that means going back to Michigan a couple more times, then so be it. Having him be on campus when there's not a game day, so there's not all the obnoxious distractions around him, so he can actually sit down with Weiss and Moore a little bit more. That's why I don't think I'm not that concerned, because obviously Michigan has done great this fall and the summer, and it's only going to transition to the same degree in the spring and the winter.
So, guys, just a reminder for those of you asking questions in the chat. This is a more structured show. I will be answering questions on tomorrow's Wednesday recruiting chat. This is more of our recruiting podcast. So, we are only answering super chats. If you want your question answered, hit the donate button. If not, come back and join me tomorrow. But look, I think the all your eggs in one basket approach is a risky proposition. I mean, it didn't work out with Dante Moore, and I think it will work out in the end with Jadyn Davis. I've had a prediction in since the summer. I've had no reason to change it at this point. I think fans would probably panic a little bit more than Michigan if he does take it into the offseason. But I do think if he does take it into, that February, March, past the start of the year, basically, I do think you a little bit more effort with some of the guys you mentioned. I absolutely love Michael Van Buren. I think he's a stud. Um, you look at what he did at St. Francis this season, what he did as a freshman is extremely impressive. I had a chance to see him live earlier in the fall. He's a little bit more of a dual threat guy than Jadyn. He's very quick. He can make things happen with his feet. He's a really polished, accurate passer. Might not have the arm strength that Jadyn Davis does, but you always love those St. Francis kids, man. They have a lot of moxie, a lot of swagger to them. That Baltimore attitude just really stands out to me. And you see that with Blake Corum. You see that with Ayabi Oki. You see that with Derek Moore, man. Like, there's just something about those guys. I don't think, you have to pivot and not necessarily pivot if, Jadyn continues to prolong it. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't take a closer look at Van Buren. I get Biff's gone, but there's still that St. Francis tie to Michigan with all the guys on the roster. Get some of the other guys, Isaac Wilson, Mike is probably a little lower on, but I think Van Buren's a great option in case that happens. And there isn't a clear front runner there. Penn State, Oregon are two schools that are very involved. There's some others as well, but I think Michigan could easily get back into that race if it comes down to that. But right now, not anticipating it. Look, I think Jadyn will get it done. I think he'll get it done soon. At least that's the hope. So I'm not going to be worried until we get past the calendar year. And if you ask Zach, he won't be worried until who knows when. So but that's kind of it on Jadyn Davis, guys. I mean, we are just going to sit back, see how it transpires, keep a close eye on Clemson, especially with the Lagway decision tomorrow, and we'll keep you updated as we hear anything else. And one last reminder, this is a super chat podcast only, so click the donate button if you want your questions answered. Let's go ahead and segue to another topic. We're about halfway through the show. These podcast shows are going to be about half an hour, so we could go on and on about Jadyn Davis. I was going to ask about Jadyn Davis's rankings and things like that, but we're quickly moving through time, so let's go ahead and get to the next topic. Michigan is in on a couple of flip candidates, one being Aaron Gates, and that's who we're really going to focus on here. 4-star out of the state of Georgia, the top priority for Michigan at the nickel spot. has been committed to Florida for more than a year. You see our great producer Hutch bringing up the rankings. Man, looks like he's dropped in some rankings. Not the fault of Gates, though, man. He suffered a torn ACL. I hate when sites drop kids because they're injured. Like, there's nothing they can do about that. But anyway, I still think Gates is a really talented, versatile player in the secondary. Michigan has had him on campus 3 times despite his commitment to Florida. They've never been able to completely flip the burger with their spatula. So hopefully we see some movement here in the next couple weeks. Right now, Michigan is still very much in the mix. In fact, Jim Harbaugh is set to make an in-home visit on Thursday, I believe. Jesse Minter, Steve Klinkscale are also slated to be out there. Michigan making the rounds in Georgia. They'll actually see another priority DB target in Tyler Scott tomorrow. They'll see on 300 offensive line commit Nathan Afobe. But the big name here is Aaron Gates. I'll let you share your opinion first, Zach. Will Michigan flip Aaron? Will they finally get it done?
Well, the Florida site, and the recruiting reporter who covers the Gators, Corey Bender, talked to Gates yesterday, and he knows where he's already committing. So I don't know if this in-home visits with the staff is just sealing the deal, or if the Michigan is actually running behind and needs this to make headway. But I guess with how he knows where Michigan stands with him, obviously he's the top nickel option on the board. He has been there 3 times, one for the spring game, the second was the official visit, and then he was actually at the Illinois game as a surprise. I was on the sidelines and I saw him showing up in like hunting camo, like prepared for the cold. But no, he was a surprise guest, I guess you could say. No one knew beforehand, so it was great to get Gates to see a game, like an actual game. He was there with his parents. They got front row seats next to Samaj Morgan and his family. In terms of how Michigan is actually going after him, I have talked to his parents a couple of times, both sets, and they have said that their best relationship with someone not on the Florida staff happens to be Steve Klinkscale. He has kept in contact well before he joined Michigan. He actually offered Gates at Kentucky. They're in terms of how they communicate, the Michigan staff has not deterred their interest from the ACL tear. They still feel as he is, like you said, a top option. His parents don't care about distance, even though they're from Georgia. Obviously, Florida is relatively closer, but it's still a quick flight up. They have told me that if they want to hand their son off to somebody, it's got to be somebody like Steve Klinkscale. And if you read our stuff on the board and on the website, we know that players, recruits, coaches, parents have talked about Steve's honesty, his truthfulness, his pretty much quote unquote telling it how it is. That really resonates, especially with parents who just want their son to be with a mentor that far away. I think it's imperative. I don't think, obviously, he would be a great get. Obviously, Michigan is in with another set of defensive backs, and Aaron Gates is important. To get someone that high and successfully get him after months and months and months of talking, I think it just not only shows that they can go down to Georgia, which is top 5 in the country of recruit hotbeds, and get someone like Gates, which would end up being the 3rd player in the 2023 class that comes from Georgia and Michigan. And it would just show that Klinkscale is obviously one of the best recruiters on the staff, and how important he is to keep him on staff for the next few years. Obviously, we know about how much he's done well in Ohio, but I think this recruitment with Gates will show that his 4 years of staying in a relationship paid off. So we'll know where he's actually going to go after this in-home, which is going to probably, like we said, either going to seal the deal or change how he thinks about Michigan.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting as in terms of what Gates told our Florida side. So, like Zach said, he basically told our Florida reporter, Corey Bender, does a terrific job covering the Gators. He said, hey, I pretty much know where I'm going into these in-home visits. So, like Zach, I don't really know how to take it. Is that good for Michigan? Is that not good? I think it it kind of sucks for Michigan that he did go to Florida for an official visit. I had buzz that might not happen. It obviously ended up happening, but I think the in home will give Gates and his family a lot to think about, and they've been thinking about it a lot over the last year. Visiting for the spring game, official visit in the summer, like Zach said, the surprise visit for the game against Illinois. I mean, Michigan's always been on the cusp of flipping Gates. They've just never been able to get it done. And I'm not really sure what else Michigan can do. Klink's put in so much work in this recruitment. Like you mentioned, Zach, he's been recruiting him since he was at Kentucky. Matter of fact, the first time I ever met Aaron Gates, I was at Michigan satellite camp in Nashville seeing like Miles Pollard, and some random guy came up to me and was like, "This is going to be the number one DB in the country. He already knows Klink." And it was Aaron Gates, and it was like super random. But yeah, Klink's built that relationship for a while. Gates drove all the way from Sharpsburg, which is south of Atlanta, up to Nashville for that camp, in large part because of Steve Klinkscale and the relationship he had there. So Klink's done everything possible. Jesse Minter doesn't get enough credit as a recruiter, man. He's done a fantastic job in this one as well. He's been out to Trinity Christian, his high school, on multiple occasions. He's very, very well liked by the staff there. So honestly, what can Michigan do? It has to be Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's got to be the guy that's got to close this deal, man. He is still one of the best he's probably the best closer on the staff. I mean, even though he's not climbing trees and he's not the jackhammer per se, he's a guy that kids still look up to, that he resonates with. He has a quirky personality, but he also has the accolades. He's done it all. He's coach of the year. He's coached in the Super Bowl. He's played in the league. So I think Jim Harbaugh being in that living room with Gates and his family, and especially moms, you have to win over moms. Gates' mom works in education. Obviously, the Michigan degree means something. Not that Florida's not a good school either, but Michigan has so much to offer on the academic side. They have so much to offer Gates on the football side as well, making the college football playoff. And just having Jim Harbaugh in that living room, I think, can make all the difference in the world and might be the final push Gates needs to make a flip. Now, something that you mentioned that was important is he tore his ACL, which Florida was very involved in helping him with, similar to what Michigan did with Tyler Morris last cycle. So I think that's going to play a role, just knowing that, hey, Florida had your back. They've been there for more than a year. So it's tough to flip from a situation like that. But if anybody can flip them, it's of Harbaugh, Minter, Klink. I mean, those are your best guys in the living room. They have to find a way to get it done. There's no more, prolonging this process. If they are going to flip Aaron Gates, they need to do it in the living room on Thursday night. All right, let's go ahead and transition to our next topic. We were going to talk a little bit about Hayden Moore, but we're short on time. Just a quick note, Moore is a linebacker from Colorado, committed to Nebraska. Another potential flip candidate making an unofficial visit to Michigan this weekend. So we're definitely keeping tabs on Hayden Moore as well. But we're going to go to our last topic. We got about 7 minutes left, so wanted to give it a decent amount of time. The last thing we'll touch on, unless you guys have super chats, which we always appreciate, press the donate button and we'll answer your questions. The last thing we're going to touch on is, will Michigan keep on 300 edge Enow Etta? That's been a large topic of conversation. You see here, Enow is the highest rated commit in Michigan's 2023 recruiting class, top 100 prospect on 24/7, and a top 150 prospect on On3 and ESPN, and a top 300 prospect on. Enno's a real deal. He put up a monster senior stat line. I mean, he was dominant. Doesn't play the best of competition in Texas, but he did what he was supposed to do and manhandled the children he played against. And yeah, he has so much upside. He's only been playing football for 3 years now, I believe. So he's a guy that has so much upside that can be molded into a Mike Morris type. And that's kind of what they've sold him on. Michigan is doing an in-home visit with Enow tonight. It might have happened already. I need to check in with Enow, but it was scheduled for today, which was very important. Harbaugh being there, Elston being there as well. I think that Michigan will keep Enow Etta, and I'll tell you why after Zach shares his thoughts. Let's see if Zach agrees that Michigan will keep Enow Etta.
I have three reasons why Michigan will keep Eno. The first was I was told directly by someone who's very knowledgeable about the situation, and he was said that Eno told him and others that he was going to stay. Whether or not he flips on that is yet to be seen, but they are confident that he is going to stay. The second reason is that NIL is not going to play the biggest factor like it did with Collins. Different situations in home, and obviously, I think the opinion with the family with NIL isn't going to be that big of a factor. And then the third reason is his relationship with Jesse Minter, Dylan Roney, and Mike Elston, who, as he has told me personally, that they have been real with him since the start. So playing time, how he will fit, what his attributes are, what he needs to improve on. They have been honest and realistic with how he can succeed at Michigan, which is something that he has been fond of ever since he committed in July. We were going to detail after his Nebraska visit, which, if you don't know, the Nebraska game was his first fall visit, since committing. He was there with all the in-staters, so he got close with everybody, including like kicker Ab Samaha, running back Cole Cabana, and offensive lineman Amir Herring. As the loan out of state commit for that game, he was saying that everyone was really super nice to him. Everyone wanted to gravitate towards him in a genuine way. Fans, coaches, players, like everyone wanted to, be in his little bubble. And he just thought like that's where home can be. Like I'm wanted here. After the Ohio State win, he said, quote, "They counted us out and we showed them why that's a mistake." Now, I mean, of course, it's a big win, but I think the terms we and they have some meaning to it. And then the Big Ten title game, obviously, he said one word. If you read our story that we posted about recruit reactions, he said really just one word, which was inspirational. I know we're going to go into deeper conversations about the effect of Collins, Chiampon leaving. So I'll transition back to you before we go into that.
Yeah, so I do think he's going to stay, man. I don't think it's going to be a Collins Achiampong situation. Now, is that still a possibility? Yes. Miami has been in contact with Eno. Collins has actively been recruiting him we have a super chat here. It comes from Mac Frisk. And let me just finish my thought on Eno and we'll get to your question here. But yeah, I think Miami is a factor. It's definitely going to be something that I watch closely. Look, Collins told me I'm sticking with Michigan the night before he ended up flipping to Miami. So it's not like, words carry that much weight. So, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get fooled again. I'm keeping a more cautious eye on this situation, knowing what happened with Collins. TCU still involved, Oklahoma is still involved. But when you look at that factor, NIL, I think money talks, and it does resonate with a lot of recruits. But Eno comes from a really strong household. I have heard that his family is not about just the NIL pitch. Eno has always been upfront about Michigan offering the best of both worlds: elite education, elite football, development. That's why he picked Michigan over Michigan State the first time. Michigan State was all flash, Brandon Jordan, big hire, NIL, take pictures with these cars. But in reality, Eno saw right through it and he committed to Michigan because he saw the development. He saw the results. And like you said, the Big Ten title, calling it inspirational, he sees the results again on the field. It wasn't a flash in the pan last year. Michigan's here to stay. They're developing guys, and I think that'll keep him on board. So, yeah, we're monitoring these other schools, but Eno keeps referring to Michigan as we. He's been working really hard to recruit others to Michigan. When I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, right before Collins decommitted, he told me like, dude, I don't think like the fans understand how hard I'm working to help build this class, and like you could just hear that emotion in his voice of wanting to put together a special class despite it being such a frustrating cycle where Michigan's coming off a college football playoff appearance and is ranked number 23. So I think Enow stays. We're running out of time, so let's get to our lone super chat. Matt 999. Thank you so much, Matt. We will put that towards our travel budget. Matt says, "Sorry guys, just entering. Any word on Jyaire Hill? Would love to have him on the class, so we can briefly give our takes on Jyaire Hill, Zach. So this one has long been a Michigan-Illinois battle with the great Coach Brett at Illinois retweeting Eric All as a little bit of a negative recruiting tool this week. So you can see that battle still very much heated. Jyaire on 300 prospect, actually ranked higher than Enow on three, would be one hell of a land. He's been the number one priority at corner for a while. Michigan is making an in-home. They are continuing to do really well with Hill. The uh, last visit, he visited multiple times throughout the fall, but I think his most recent visit to Michigan really moved the needle, really with his mother. He was there for the win against Illinois, so he saw the head-to-head win. He saw what Michigan has done the last couple of weeks on television. I think his mother's warming up to Michigan. I think kind of like Gates, it's going to be up to Harbaugh to get it done. But right now, I would give the advantage to Michigan. Thoughts, Zach?
I think the Illinois game really propelled Michigan to a spot where they haven't really been before since like June. I think since being on this beat, I've been flipping off and on about who is actually leading this recruitment, whether it be Michigan or Illinois. At one point, I thought it was Michigan. Towards the end of the summer, it was all Illinois, and then by this point, heading into in the early half of December, I think it's still Michigan. If you saw Jyaire at the game against Illinois, there was never a point where he wasn't flashing his teeth. Like, I've never seen this kid so happy before. I know he's kind of quiet. Like, I know he's not a hoopla kind of guy. But I've never seen a kid more excited just to be on the field at the game. I don't know if it's because it's his two top favorites were playing against each other, or something happened that day that just made him so happy. But he just looked really pleased to be there and really proud that he got to be so close on the field with his mom. His mom was also looking very happy. They were taking pictures everywhere. I think he was also feeling great just to be around players that he's known for months, either commits or targets that are also interested in Michigan. And I think it was just a great game overall for someone like Jyaire to see, because it was 10 degrees with wind chill by the Jake Moody field goal. And everyone that had those big yellow puffy jackets, including Jyaire, was just having the time of their lives, even if their feet were numb at the end of the game. I think a win helped. I think replicating the communication by the coaching staff that Illinois has been proud of for months. I think that's huge. And I think making the mom more interested and more, she's looking more. Obviously, he responded to us after the Ohio State game, and he just said, "Keep it up. My mom is watching." And I know you've been reporting that, mom, the Mrs. Hill is going to be the biggest factor. And I think it's just, like you said, Harbaugh has been known for his closing in more ways than none. But I think him, Klink, Minter, everybody that shows up to his house, it's all about the mom. I think Jyaire knows he'll be developed into an NFL caliber cornerback. I think he knows he'll get a great education. But the proximity to home, the relationship that Bielema and his staff have done with him, and I think the opportunity to earn more playing time at Illinois earlier than probably at Michigan is heading the other direction. So, again, entice mom, make mom ready to send her son to Ann Arbor, and I think he'll end up being the second cornerback commit of this class.
Really quick, something to note on that visit: Denard Wilson has gotten increasingly involved in this recruitment, played a big role on that trip for the game against Illinois. But also that sit-down meeting with Harbaugh on the visit, I think really went really, really well. I think the in-home will go well as well. As far as commitment timeline for Jyaire, he tentatively was looking at around December 10th. That is this weekend. He has not put out any type of announcement date. And last I talked to Jyaire, he did not have a firm date. So he is looking to make a decision uh, at some point this calendar year. It might take it all the way to the early period, but either way, whichever school he picks, he is looking to sign early, and he has met the qualifications to enroll early. I think he was still debating that because he is also really good at track. He led Kankakee to the state meet last year, so that's something to consider for him is whether he'll be an early enrollee or not. But either way, again, planning to decide in December. Appreciate you guys for joining us as always. Um, tune in next week. We'll have Zach in for another show. This is going to be our weekly recruiting podcast. For those of you that joined late, Zach Libby is our new recruiting hire. He's a terrific job over at the Wolverine. Every Tuesday, we'll be here having a structured show. It'll be super chat questions only because I am keeping my Wednesday show where I continuously just answer all your questions. So we just call it the recruiting chat show. But Zach won't join me for that. He can go out and enjoy some pizza or something. But as always, subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Just $10 until next football season. Click the like button on the videos, share it. If you guys joined late, you can always watch the replay as well. But like I said, thanks guys. Hope you all have a great night.